I want to say good day to you this day, dear time. How are you all? Once again, we will take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this transmission to occur through this window and in this way and at this time. Once again, each and every time you allow this transmission to connect and you co-create this interaction with our civilization, it creates for us an opportunity to experience through each and every one of you more gateways, more doorways, more facets of the infinite multidimensional crystal of all that is. So we thank you for this interactive gift. We would like to remind you now at this time about the multidimensional crystal. That being that every facet of this hypothetical multidimensional crystal, that is the infinite, the one, the all that is, the creator, whatever you wish to call it, every facet is simply another experience of itself, another perspective of the one, another reality perhaps to you, another point of view, but it is all the same crystal, all the same experience. The idea, of course, is that when you, as many of you already know, choose to vibrate at a certain frequency, that will determine, as we have said many times, the facet you will experience, the point of view of creation you will have, the reflective feedback you will get. It's all determined by your frequency, which, of course, in turn is determined by your definitions. The idea always to remember is that while there are those very few absolutes, and that most everything else is simply combinations of the few absolutes, changes and recombinations and different mixtures of different points of view, all creating different reality experiences, each equal, each valid, each unique, but all contained within the one. The thing to remember is that unconditional love is the experience of being in a relationship, a harmonious relationship with the Absolute. That's what unconditional love is. It is the effect, it is the experience of being in a harmonious relationship with the Absolute, with the all that is, but in specific, with the absolute elements of all that is. Those absolutes, as we have discussed them, the four laws, that give structure to everything you experience, that give the multifaceted, multidimensional crystal its form, its skeleton, its shape. So that, in having that elemental and very fundamental and basic shape, then any number of infinite reflections can occur in those facets to be experienced by the different portions of the one's consciousness that each and every being within creation is. So, remembering the four absolutes, then know that you are eternal and infinite. Know that as you are part of the one, you are also the entirety of the one functioning as a part. Also then, know that what frequency you are on, what you put out, is what is reflected back. And also know that everything changes except the first three absolutes. And in that great, expansive change lies the key to anything and everything that you could wish to be, that you would want to experience. For in the fact that change is the only major constant aside from the other three absolutes, that is what gives you the freedom to experience infinity in all of its various forms. That is what gives you the ability to exercise your free will and to be whatever it is you deem it is important for you to be, knowing that you have been given the ability to do so. For were it not so, were you not that free, were it not infinite, it would collapse under its own weight. It must be open-ended. In order for you to experience anything, there must be, in that sense, everything. Any one thing can only be experienced because everything and anything can be experienced. Were it closed, were certain things excluded, then nothing could be experienced. It would be too small a structure. Nothing could be moved. Nothing could be shifted. For if it were, in that sense, finite, then if you moved something, you could break the whole thing. It would have to support itself. But in that it is infinite, then every one thing supports the whole, and the whole supports every one thing. And you are free. Free to be creative, since you are made in the image of creation and in the image of Creator. Free to be who and what you really are, and express that, and exercise that. For again, we remind you, this is all it's all about. The entire mission and purpose of your life, and any life you may have, is to simply decide who you are, and to the best of your ability, at any given moment, be that you. And that's it. Takes a lot of weight off when you look at it that way. But that is it. That's all you need to be. Just you. Whatever you deem that to be at any given moment. Whatever facet of the multidimensional crystal you decide you are at any given moment, that's who you are. Be that you to your best ability. And when you change your mind about what facet you are, be that you to your best ability. And you will then be allowing the infinite to experience itself through you in all the ways it is possible for it to experience itself. And that's all there is. We thank you for allowing us to reflect this notion, this reminder, once again, from this perspective, from this facet, from this point of view, to you. And once again, in return for the gift that you are giving our civilization and allowing this co-created interaction to take place, I ask in what way now may we be of service to you?
Bashar.
You. Good day.
Good day, Bashar. Could you clarify a little bit? Is the multidimensional crystal, is that a physical object? Is that...
In a sense, it has physical aspects. But since we are talking about all that is, then by definition you must understand that portions of the multidimensional crystal are by definition not all physical.
Okay, but is there a physical, would that be relational to the tesseract or to the crystal tesseract that we had built?
It is relational,
okay.
Yes. There is a physical component, yes. However, again, it is not simply physical. It is beyond physical, and physical is contained within it, but there is a type of underlying vibrational, resonant, skeletal structure, so to speak, upon which all reality experiences in all dimensions, physical and non-physical, are hung.
Okay. I noticed that, I think last time I told you about the matches that manifested after a dream from the Tesseract. And lately I've been feeling kind of separated from my energy, not meditating as much. But when I was visiting my brother up in Northern California, I went out to my car to get something. And he wasn't interested in the tapes of you or any of the other stuff. And I wanted to, and I was thinking, I've got to have a tape he's interested in. I went out to the car, and he's really interested in his dog. And a tape that I have never seen before. I have no idea where this came from. Ended up being in the pocket of my car called Showering with Your Dog. And I have no idea where this came from. I'm wondering if you
Is that all right?
Yeah, and I gave it to him, and I just appeared synchronistically, but I'm just wondering...
what are you wondering?
I'm wondering, did I actually manifest this, or was this something that had just been hidden in my car? Do you have any way of finding out by scanning? Oh, I don't know.
Because synchronicity is the key. In other words, it matters not whether there might have, quote-unquote, been something there all along because you didn't interact with it. And in that sense, it might not well, in that sense, have been there. It doesn't matter. Whether or not it manifested at that moment or has been there all along, if you didn't know it was there and didn't interact with it, the effect is the same. The point is the synchronicity. And the synchronicity, finding what you need exactly when you need it, right place, right time, everything coming together just so to meet the needs that need to be met at that moment, that is the revelation of the underlying structure we are talking about. And that's all you really need to understand, is that you are utilizing the underlying structure that you in your reality perceive as the effect or experience of synchronicity, and that since reality is what you created to be anyway, you still manifested it, in a sense, out of nothingness, so to speak. Whether it sat there for weeks beforehand or whether it appeared at that moment, you still manifested it one way or another along whatever represented to you the path of least resistance that best benefited your particular reality needs. So in that sense, it does not really make sense to wonder which way it occurred, because both in their own contexts are the same, because you create reality anyway. So whether you put a little bit of a time frame in it and have something lying around, quote-unquote, waiting for you to find it, or whether you just conjure it up at that second, is really all the same in terms of the way in which it manifests through synchronicity. You follow?
Yeah, I think I do. And also, I think that might relate to the fact that when I have been meditating less, it's almost like I'm doing it in my sleep. Because I seem to be getting like tutelage or something in dreams.
Many of you are receiving tutelage in dreams on various levels, yes. Many of you are attending many different kinds of lectures and classes in your dream state, yes.
And is there any way to, when I only am remembering just basic fragments, to better integrate it into...
There are many ways.
Waking consciousness?
There are many ways. The primary idea behind any way you choose is to simply be yourself, for then the information can simply be utilized along whatever is best for you and simply fall in place and in line with your own perfect synchronicity. That's how to use anything. You follow?
Yes. And I did have one other question on an unrelated topic.
Jack.
Are you, actually maybe not totally unrelated, are you planning on having a channeling class again soon?
I plan nothing.
Okay, I know that the channel has said that he's going to reduce his channeling sessions from once a week to like once every 3 months.
Depending on circumstances in the channel's life.
Uh-huh.
But I plan nothing.
Okay. So
when the time is correct according to my synchronicity, then we simply recognize that such a thing can occur. But I plan nothing.
Okay.
It will come together as it has before when it needs to come together. And when it comes together, then such a class can exist. And it will come full-blown, in fully realized form when it needs to be there. Before such a moment in time, I don't need to be aware of it, think about it, or even know that it has to be possible. Because when the time is right, I will know what I need to know to teach the class at that moment, and everyone who needs to be in the class will be there. That's the way it's always worked. That's the way it will work. I trust that implicitly, and that would be a good thing for all of you to learn to do as well. But it's up to you.
Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you. Next. Good day.
Good day. I've been reading an author is writing about mind control experiments.
Mind control experiments.
Yes, by the shadow government.
Shadow government. Yes.
And he claims that many, if not most, of the abduction experiences with medical experiments by Greys and so on are really screen memories induced by regular old terrestrial government type.
Regular old
yes.
terrestrial government types. Some of them are. Not most, some.
I wonder about one of his pieces of evidence for that is the logic that many of the experiments, the methods, the medical methods used by the Greys, for example, are so primitive compared to where they should be given the technological advancement of the supposed advancement of the species that that's sort of a giveaway that it's really just humans.
No, not necessarily so.
Then, well, why then do these medical techniques seem so barbaric in many instances, and why is there so much pain if they are so advanced?
First of all, do not necessarily make the assumption that they are as advanced as you might think on every level. You must understand that many societies will take a science only to the level that it serves them and no farther. Many times you will find, especially in the circumstances regarding the Greys, that because they did create in their society a devolution, you understand?
Yeah.
And did, in a sense, destroy their societal structure and evolved into the form that they are now, they will also have sacrificed certain portions of their ancient technologies and will have recreated them only to a certain degree that serves their agendas. The idea also to understand is that many of them are simplistic while not necessarily needing to be any more advanced because they simply do the job that they want them to do. They have no reason to advance the technique if they can get what they want with what they have. You could say it is not so much not advanced as economical. You understand? Though we are not implying that they have an economy like your planet. But the idea is that they will only go as far as they need to because that's the way their mentality is structured. So if they can invent a long pointy stick that will puncture a hole and extract the fluids that they need, they have no reason to bother with anything else. You follow?
Would that also include the fact that if they feel like they're going to screen out the memory of the experience, they feel like then they don't have to bother about the pain?
In some senses, yes. That might be said to be an extension of their so-called technology. In other words, as you have said, since ultimately they believe it will not matter to you, then why bother to invent something that they can simply do with their minds, knowing that no matter what you go through in the meantime, you won't remember. That's their logic. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's what you may prefer. That is simply their logic. Yes. Does that help illuminate the idea a little bit?
Well, the last question, it does, but the last question then would be, but surely by now they've realized that there are methods of making people forget the pain and are not foolproof, and many people are experiencing pain.
Yes.
So why
they are beginning to realize that, and you will understand that if you actually take now, in what you would call your contemporary day and age, a modern cross-section of interviews of individuals who are having those experiences, you will find that the quality of many of the experiences has changed. Sometimes, however, there will still be individuals who will report certain things, but you must always be cautious to understand what it is they're actually saying and why. I am not, again, in any way, shape, or form, justifying any particular approach on any level or on behalf of anyone. But sometimes an individual will report something that may seem still to be a very scary, very frightening experience, but it may be because they are simply frightened, and it may not really be because of anything that is being done to them. But they may amplify that and imagine that they have suffered more than they actually have. Again, I am not trying to excuse away anything that may have been done that would, in a sense, perhaps, be better accomplished through mutual agreement. But nevertheless, you have to take into account all the factors of every case to really understand what is going on in the evolution of the process. It's not always black and white and cut and dried just based on what someone might actually remember or think has happened to them. You understand?
We do.
But overall, you will find, if you will do the research and take a cross-section, the quality of the interactions has changed because the agenda has changed. And many of the Greys over time have learned, and have absorbed the understanding that different techniques are required, and that they have, in some cases, acquiesced to allow the experience to be, if not more enjoyable, then certainly less painful. But again, you must understand they are, as far as you are concerned, an alien consciousness. They have their own logic, they have their own agenda, and they do not see things as your people do, especially not in the emotional areas. And thus then, sometimes, what kinds of things that your species may require to feel that some form of sociological etiquette has been recognized, they may simply have no clue should even exist. Mm-hmm. In the same way, and again, this is not a judgment nor a justification, but if you will simply look at what many of your own scientists do to many of the animals on your planet, I think you'll get the point. How far do they go out of their way to make these animals comfortable when they are burrowing into their heads with drills? You follow me?
I do.
They have their agenda. They think that what they're doing is for the good of humanity. And in some senses, maybe it is. But they haven't yet arrived at a level where they can understand that there are other ways to extract the information that they need. As such, remember, the Greys are, in their own way, a reflection of your society in its contemporary evolutionary state. That's why you've attracted yourselves to each other in the way that you have, into the relationship that you have. They need things you have. You need things they have. You have drawn yourselves to each other to reflect to each other that, in a sense, you are both, in your own ways, at a certain stage of evolution that on one level for you and on another level for them is not necessarily very advanced. They may have higher technologies in certain areas, but you have great advancement in understanding individuated emotionality balance that they have absolutely no comprehension of, except to understand that they need it, and they understand enough that they must genetically engineer it into the hybrids they are creating in order that they can then be more than they are. You follow?
Yes, sir.
So, it's really not just a very simple black and white picture. And you must understand that even within the Greys, there are actually many different factions that have slightly different agendas and slightly different ways of looking at things. You cannot just say, the Greys, and why are they this or not that, any more than you can say, the humans. Why are they not this and not that? Because you know that every human individual is very different. It may not be down to an individual level for the Greys, but there are large collectives within the Greys that might function as a slightly different individuated agenda from another collective within the Grey. Therefore, even they are at odds with each other over certain issues as to exactly how to handle this overall agenda of whatever it is they are doing for their society at any given moment. You follow?
Yes, I'm wondering how many different agendas and groups might there be?
Within the overall collective of the Greys, there are actually 5 different agendas.
And could you summarize sort of what the differences
Yes.
are?
One will be, as has been said, a more advanced level of the Greys, what you might call a more futurized level of the Greys. One will be one more contemporary to you, and one will be much more primitive in terms of time frame. 3 different time frames of Greys are interacting with each other because they have the ability to slip through interdimensional time. Talk about confusing. Mm-hmm. But since they are of one mind, it is not necessarily as confusing for them as it might be for all of you on an individual level. The other 2 have to do with fluctuations within the more primitive and the moderate or middle level of Greys. The futuristic Greys are relatively cohesive in their understanding of what they are doing. But in the contemporary level and in the more primitive level, there are also splits about how to go about doing what they're doing, whether or not even to go about doing what they're doing with regard to their relationship to you, your relationship to them, and the whole idea of the creation of the hybrids in terms of what that ultimately will do for them, for you, and so forth. There are, in their eyes, many different important issues to discuss with regard to what it is and why it is they are even interacting with you. Does this make some sense?
It does.
The number 5 has to do with the number of humanity. And thus, this is what they are exploring in their own way, is opening the gateway of what, for lack of a better term, might be something that you would recognize as the reclamation of their humanity, so to speak. You follow?
Yes.
Thus, they are dealing, in a sense, with a faction that for the most part would be very similar to the concept of simply the more primitive functions of your brain, on a very primeval level. They are dealing with a part of their collective that has to do with the concept of the absorption and integration of emotionality. They are dealing with a part that has to do with the absorption, integration, and balance of intellectuality. They are dealing with the part that has to do with the integration of the bodily forms, and they are dealing with the part that has to do with the integration of the etheric or the spirit. On very different levels and in very different ways than humanity is doing it, even though humanity is also integrating all of those things on an individual level for each and every one of you in your own unique individual path. Does that make any sense?
Yes, I'm wondering if any particular one of those groups is prevailing over the others.
In some senses, they have an innate, underlying understanding that they do have to ultimately all balance together and fit into the appropriate slots somehow. There might be a little jostling here and there among the 5 groups now and then for exactly what that should mean, but ultimately they have the underlying desire for resolution more powerfully than they have an underlying desire for the manifestation of any particular agenda. That would be one lesson your people could learn well from them. To focus on the outcome or the desire for a resolution more than exactly how it is you think you're supposed to get there, or which agenda is more right than another. So while they have some jostling, they have a stronger sense of desiring an ultimate resolution. You follow?
Yes. Do any of them have any formal relations with any elements of our government?
Not anymore. There was a time when there was, to some degree, what you might recognize as a formal relation with a moderate group, the middle group, a portion of the middle group. But, shall we just put it colloquially in your language, things didn't go well. You follow?
Well, I do. I'd like to hear, can you say any more about when that dissolved?
In general terms, it lasted about 10 of your years. Generally speaking, you would find it would be about between your early 50s to your mid-60s, early 60s, basically. There were a few splinter interactions that happened even beyond that, but for the most part, that was the largest body, 10 to 15 of your years of the major interactions that occurred. But then it was seen that the agendas did not really match as each side thought that they might, and thus, in that sense, it fell apart for a variety of reasons that we will not go into detail about right now. All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You, good day.
I want to say hello again. It's been many years since...
Oh, all right. Many orbits. Hello again.
I have shared the joy and love of your presence. I wanted to ask you about a relationship. It involves what we would call my step-grandson.
Step-grandson.
Yes.
All right.
In July of 1985, my first wife passed away.
All right.
And the little grandson, now about 6.5, was born in March of 1991. On 2 different occasions, there was a strong, loving presence, visit from the spirit of my first wife. Well, I held this little boy.
All right.
And I want to say that I know that all grandparents are very loving, and each thinks their grandson is special. But in my 62 years, I have never felt such a strong spiritual bonding to this little boy who is called John Lee Delzell and is about 6.5 years old now.
Yes.
Is there anything that you could share with me that is making this a more special relationship? Anything that would be a better understanding of why I have such strong feelings for this little boy?
There are 2 or 3 things that are immediately coming present in our scanning of your field. Number 1. What is strongly happening here is the typical resonance identification that occurs between 2 beings that are operating primarily on the same wavelength. Thus, then, when you find another entity that is operating on much the same frequency, this strong magnetic bond will always be sensed. You follow me so far?
Yes.
So, he's exhibiting many of the same frequency patterns as yourself in order to undertake similar themes in his life that you have explored.
Yes.
And you are functioning to some degree on an etheric or astral level as a targeting device to help him home in on some of these ideas and experiences as you have used this energy, so that he can gauge for himself exactly how it is he is going to use this energy and what kind of potential experiences he can have. So you have a strong communicative link going on the electromagnetic etheric levels that you are sensing.
Yes.
In that sense, he's using you like a type of map. You follow?
Yes.
You, in that sense, are using him like a type of seed for re-energizing and renewing, now that you are going into a new cycle yourself, and going beyond the idea of some of the things that you, quote-unquote, came to Earth to do, and to expand beyond the old agenda and create some new agendas now for yourself in what might be coming up as a more freeing time.
Yes.
The idea, therefore, is that you are reflecting to each other this way, and that is the first level. This resonance identification. You are on the same wavelength. That's one. Number two, even though we will say this again linearly, of course you already know that all ideas of what you may call past and or future or alternate reality lives are actually going on simultaneously, but in the language of your people, you have strong past life experiences that you are connecting to with each other with regard to having shared many strong, good times, experiences, familially, in that sense, with each other, and you are drawing upon those, connecting to those across the board as well, to create a summing up in this life of what all those experiences together have meant and can mean to you and how they can be used in this life. And this connects back into the first idea of him using you as a map and you using him as a seed. You follow?
Yes, I do.
That's number two. Number three. One moment. He has functioned many times as a spirit guide for you. And you are recognizing him. You understand?
Yes.
You are seeing, to put it again colloquially, your guide in the flesh.
Yes.
And you are recognizing him as such. And that is the third strong connection you are feeling. There are others, but these are the three that have come up for us at the moment that clarify themselves most strongly with regard to what immediately is most pertinent to your journey at this particular point in time.
Just a brief follow-up question. I understand the difference, as you've said many times, we are not responsible for, but we are responsible to. And yet I feel...
Well, you are responsible for yourself.
Yes, but
not for anyone else.
Yes, and I feel some strong feeling that I am to help him, that there is something
that's what I said. He's using you as a map. Now, whether that manifests in you actually participating physiologically, in actually physically helping him do something, well, that remains to be seen. It can go that way, but even if it doesn't, you will still be helping him because you have laid out the chart, you have laid out a certain course, not that he will follow it slavishly, but you have laid out a map so that it becomes no longer terra incognita. And he is using the charts you have laid out to chart a course for himself in a way that will allow him some insight as to what could possibly result by taking some of those steps, by following some of those charts. You follow?
Yes.
So you are helping him. It may or can manifest, if you wish, creatively, in the way that you have said in a pragmatic sense of physically helping him with something. But again, nevertheless, what you are feeling, no matter how it manifests, no matter how it presents itself, is that he is using you as a map, as a compass.
I understand, and thank you.
Thank you. You, good day.
Thank you. I've been experiencing over about the last 18 months something that is called anaphylactic shock reaction.
All right.
Specialists are not able to determine the cause of these. I'm from New Zealand. I've arrived here only a couple of hours ago. And
all right.
I'm on a journey quite literally in life at the moment. And I'm just wondering if you could possibly shed some light on all of this.
One moment. You may find that in most cases of any kind of allergic reaction in that sense, even in some cases of what you are referring to as anaphylactic shock, you will find that the underlying foundation that has been set up in the body to allow such things to occur is an underlying foundation of high degrees of toxicity in the system over long periods of time. Exposure to different kinds of pollutants, different kinds of chemicals, different kinds of toxins, heavy minerals, heavy metals, even sometimes electrical fields, or all in combination, for durations, for long periods of time, can actually form, even in childhood and from there on, underlying energetic foundations that will ultimately, eventually, emerge in some form of allergic reaction. You follow?
Yes.
So, primary step number 1, you may find that there may be a few different methodologies that can assist you, all of them in that sense relatively organic, or what you would refer to as homeopathic in general.
Mm-hmm.
But the underlying thing to do is to really start to purify and cleanse and hydrate and oxygenate the system and remove the toxins and flush the toxins from the system as best as you possibly can to give your body the best opportunity you can to begin to rebalance and realign its energetic field, and so as to not react in that way. You follow?
Yes.
So how much water do you drink?
Not enough.
How much?
2 glasses, 3 glasses a day.
All right. It should be between 1 and 2 quarts a day. You follow? Your battery is low. What happens when you do not put in your technology enough water in your batteries? They burn out. You follow?
Follow.
So, your battery is low. Water it, fill it up, and also make sure, as best as you can, that you are getting enough oxygen in breathing and centering deeply, purely, as best you can, in the cleanest environment you possibly can, as often as you can. You follow?
Yes.
Now, one thing which may to some degree be of assistance to you, I will simply put it this way as part of your process to explore it. One way or another, you may find that if you will explore the substance acacia. You follow me? Acacia. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
If you will investigate the properties of this substance, you may find that there is something about this investigation of this substance that may lead you to understand something that will actually be of physical benefit to you. So explore, with no expectations and no assumptions, the concept of acacia. All right?
All right.
Now, what is your favorite tea?
Sorry?
What is your favorite type of tea?
English breakfast.
Why?
I like the flavour.
All right.
I don't like the smell of herbal teas.
You don't like the smell.
No.
Why do you think that might be so?
I have never thought of it.
Think about it now. Why do you think you don't like the smell? Do you like the smell of what you would call eucalyptus?
Yes.
Is that not an herb?
Yeah.
In a sense? A tree, yes?
Mm-hmm.
You like that one?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Are there any others that you like?
Oh, I just don't like drinking them.
I see. None of them whatsoever. Have you tried them all?
No.
Oh, all right. What would you think about black cherry?
Never tried it.
Give it a shot. See what you think.
Okay.
But at the same time, also, it would be of benefit to you to begin to inhale some of the natural menthols and eucalyptuses that exist as well. Make an aroma for yourself, however you wish.
Mm-hmm.
And not too much, not too much. Don't drown in it. But inhale. Soothingly inhale. These will also help stimulate certain endocrine systems in your body to help begin to purge some of the toxins from your system as well. You follow me?
I do.
One moment. Try the black cherry tea. See what you think of it. Or move around in that family of tea and see what you think of it. One moment. Sometimes, some of the reasons why you may find yourself repelled by some of the herbs is because of the toxicity in your system. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
Because when a system is overloaded with certain kinds of toxicity, it will find certain natural things repugnant. Because you have gotten used to the toxins. That's like, in a sense, getting used to poison, and finding clean water will choke you. You follow?
Yeah.
It's not that extreme, but you get the point.
I do.
All right? One moment. 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 Do I have a favorite soup?
Pumpkin.
All right, this is good. One moment. This is good. One moment. The squashes can be of assistance to you. Yes. All right, one moment. This is good. One moment. Do you sing?
By myself.
Do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
How much?
Hey. Not
Then why only by yourself?
like most people.
Let's talk about you. Why only by yourself?
I've never explored it.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. To clear out the things that you are poisoning yourself with. Because the longer you hold on to energy that needs to be expressed, well, you know what could happen when you keep something in too long that needs to get out.
Mm-hmm.
That is your biggest clue right there. The vibrations, the tones, and the sharing of such will set up vibrational frequencies of energy within you that will help lead you synchronistically into more understanding and more circumstances to help continue your expansion and clarification. Don't be pent up. Let it out. Let it out. Let it out. Be creative. Be flowing. Be free. All right?
Okay.
Do your best. But it is a strong suggestion that you pay attention to this suggestion, because it is one of the most fundamental issues deep within you about not expressing yourself. And it needs to be expressed if you're really going to be healthy. In the biggest sense of the word. You follow?
That's all right.
All right. So, sing, 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 sing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day.
I recently got some information.
All right.
It was a big breakthrough.
A big breakthrough.
Yeah, and I'd like to share with you and discuss what I found out.
You go right ahead.
Okay, so after my interaction with Adrian, I was finding myself quite sad and joyless. And the work that I've done with my Dr. Bachman, the NET emotional work,
Guys.
we uncovered the whole idea of a vanishing twin.
All right.
And what came to be was that there was a male fetus in the womb with me till 4 months.
All right.
And at 4 months, this being left because there wasn't enough for us both to go on.
All right.
And so consequently, throughout my lifetime and in my experiences with men intimately, I've been searching for this strong bond again.
In some senses, there is some of this energy there. It may not necessarily be as strong as you may think. It may be being amplified by other issues in your life. It is a seed, it is a kernel of some of the energy you are dealing with, but it isn't necessarily as strong on its own as you may think.
Oh, really? Because after he did the correction on me,
Yes.
I shifted so
Yes.
drastically.
Yes. Because what you did was shift the energies you have been using to amplify that idea beyond the proportions that are appropriate.
Right. I mean, it seemed like all my life I felt this intense bond with these people so quickly.
Guys,
And obviously it wasn't felt on the other side. And then when it would dissipate or end, I'd be sort of devastated. But I didn't know why I was having such an extreme attachment.
Yes. Well, the strongest and largest component of why you are having such a strong attachment is the search for what you deem to be the missing piece of yourself, not your womb twin. Right. That is a symbol that keys into that idea, but it is not the strongest part of it.
Uh-huh.
You follow?
Yeah, I do, yeah. But, okay, so then why, I mean, it was curious to me because
it was easier for you
to accept that idea.
Yes.
Ah.
Easier for you to accept help from your twin to alleviate and change that energy than to go through those portions of yourself that were too painful in your idea that portions of yourself were missing.
Right.
So you helped yourself by allowing your twin to help you.
Uh-huh.
You follow?
Yes.
Did you say thank you to your twin?
Yeah, and I felt such a great love and...
Yes. Because remember, the spirit still exists.
Right.
And acts as a guide for you. And in that sense, the connection is profound.
So this spirit has never manifested into a body this time around, like in this lifetime with me?
Not this time.
Right. The thing that was interesting to me was that what we are, and as you say, it was just a kernel, but still, it is still there, that what we become and what we are is formed while we're in the womb and obviously in other lifetimes before now. But
well, so to speak.
So to speak.
It is not formed in other lifetimes. Remember, everything exists and is created from now. Anything that you deem to be a connection to another lifetime is a connection being made from here, not from there.
Uh-huh.
You follow?
Yes. Yes.
Because of the resonant vibrational frequencies deemed necessary here to express the self you need to be here, you will then use that energy to make connections to other areas and other lives that help reflect back and amplify the theme, the vibrations you have chosen to be here. But it comes from here first, in the same way that your image comes from you before it reflected back from the mirror. It doesn't come from the mirror to begin with.
Right. Because the thing that I was interested by and sort of looking at was just the whole idea of what forms us and what has brought me to the place where I am, and what I've been experiencing, especially in the last couple of years, in relationship to like the way I see myself and the way I represent myself in these types of relationships. And so I was feeling like this was sort of this bit of information for me that I had absolutely no awareness of, and it was
outer awareness.
Outer awareness.
Nice.
Yeah. And it seemed, it really seemed to make a lot of sense for the way that I had sort of carried on throughout my life.
Because it was the window and the doorway through which you would allow the change to occur, yes.
So where did it, if you say it didn't occur then, that's what I was interested in discovering, is what brought me to this place and what was motivating. But what was motivating all this then?
In recognizing the particular filters that would be imposed upon your consciousness in this particular lifetime, then you were motivated to attract yourself to circumstances and situations that would magnify and amplify the filters that had been imposed upon you, so that you could thus then, in a sense, balance them out through circumstances that would be, in some senses, diametrically opposed. Did that make sense to you?
No, but maybe if I buy the table, I'll figure it out. Filters...
The idea, again, is that when you deem it necessary to experience your consciousness as a physical being, just to put it in pragmatic terms, you will accept the fact that the definition of physical reality automatically means that as you impose your consciousness on physical reality, as you come into physicalization, you will place upon yourself certain limitations and certain filters that will allow you to forget most of who and what you are. Knowing that, you will set up circumstances in your life to attract yourself to that will constantly remind you of the so-called missing pieces. Until you finally get the point that what you're doing is attempting to use all of these circumstances and situations to remind yourself of who you are more completely and more holistically. That's the motivation for attracting yourself to these circumstances, is because eventually you will use them to get the reflection of more of yourself. Did that make more sense?
Uh-huh.
So that's your motivation.
So the whole idea is that we're just these spirits not just. We're these amazing spirits that come down to forget so we can remember.
Yes, because remembering through forgetting is a very different and enriching experience than simply knowing to begin with without ever having forgotten. Because having forgotten is one more area of the infinite that can be experienced. And by experiencing it, you become that much bigger.
Ah.
Even though it may seem contradictory. Well, if you just know everything, aren't you bigger already? If you forget, aren't you smaller? No, not really. Because if you forget and then remember through forgetting, you're bigger than you were when you were bigger.
Okay.
Do you understand the paradox?
Yeah.
Because you are adding one more component to the overall mix. It's similar to the concept, and if you will do this on your planet, you will see that this works, of taking a white can of paint and adding a small few drops of black paint to it. It will actually make the white paint whiter. Because you are adding more to the white, because white, in that sense, is the combination of everything. And by adding a little bit of black, you're actually increasing the everything that the white is reflective of. Of course, if you add too much, yes, it will gray down. But if you just add a little bit, it will actually get whiter. You follow? So that's what you're all doing. Does this help you?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. You and you. Number 2, do you know who you are? Yes. All right. Number 1, good day.
Hi, Bashar. It's wonderful being here again, talking with you.
Oh, I thank you. And with us, for us as well.
Talking about change and being at the very open space.
That's open space.
It hasn't always been a comfortable position to be in, but
I understand that.
And in regards to that, I'm making a change in my career.
Oh, all right. Your career.
Or work.
Yes.
And the other jobs I've had in the past were different aspects of myself. I didn't have, I guess, your conventional track record. And
conventional track record. All right.
Things...
That concept, to some degree, translates into our reality. We will see if you will add more information.
Well, like being in sales for 20 years or something. But I've done different stuff. But just to go beyond that, I had 4 interviews. And
4 interviews. Yes.
And one of the positions is a project coordinator, and the other one is a financial analyst.
Yes.
The other one is contract coordinator. They're all related.
And the 4th?
They're all related to business.
Yes. And the 4th?
And the 4th one is project.
Project what?
Coordinator.
Project coordinator for what kind of project? Or what kind of project?
Network systems on the telephone.
All right. Now, are any of these in any way, shape, or form representative of what you would consider to be your highest joy? Big hesitation.
I know the first 2. The first one would be with MCI.
Are you answering the question?
My highest joy.
Yes. Are any of these reflective and representative of what might be deemed by you to be the most exciting thing you could imagine doing in your life?
No.
Well?
See, that's another thing. I'm not clear as to what would be my highest joy, because...
well, why not? Remember, we have said, keep it simple. At any given moment, you certainly have the capacity to determine out of all the things available to you which one of those things contains the highest amount of excitement. Don't you?
Yes.
Well, that's all we mean by it. It doesn't have to translate out as a career or a job or a project. It can simply be brought down to the level of, at any given moment, which opportunity available to you contains the highest joy. That's the one you need to act on if you want to be harmoniously aligned with your true self. So, but when you translate these ideas into so-called projects and jobs and careers and so forth, then are any of these representative of what you would deem to be your most ecstatic thing that you could imagine doing at this time? Now, you have said no.
Now that you defined it better,
yes,
I would change my answer then.
And it would be what?
Yes, one of them would be the financial analyst. Secondly, the other one would be the client relations coordinator.
All right. So you are saying that at this point, one of these things that has been presented to you is, in fact, out of all the things you could imagine doing in your life right now, that it is, in fact, representative of the most exciting thing you can imagine doing. Is that what you're saying?
At this point, yes.
All right, then. Is there one that is slightly more exciting than the other? Or greatly more exciting than the other?
Yes.
All right. Which one?
It's the financial analyst.
All right. Why? Why is that representative of the highest excitement out of all the choices? What's exciting about that to you?
I believe in all aspects the position and the company supports me on all levels who I am at this present and possibly in the future.
All right. Now, remember that when you act on your highest excitement, you have to do so without expectation. Otherwise, you box yourself into a place where you will not be able to use your excitement in the most free-flowing possible way. Do you follow?
Yes.
So in other words, when you take a step toward the action of your excitement, you have to do so with zero expectation that it has to come to some particular fruition in the way that you think it must. Because sometimes you are attracted to follow a very exciting thing only for the purpose of having taken a step in that direction, not necessarily for the purpose of actually landing that particular thing or bringing it to fruition. If you're willing to really trust that your excitement is the thing to follow, keeping in mind the balance of your responsibilities as you make them and your commitments, then you'll be able to balance your understanding and set yourself up in such a fashion that will allow you some freedom of motion and some freedom of insight as to exactly why something might be attracting to you and whether it will remain as attractive as it is now or whether it actually has a high degree of potential to change once it's gotten you to look at a certain thing. This is where honest self-examination comes in about why something attracts you. Because sometimes something might attract you just to get you to look at something, and once you look at it, you've gotten the point and don't actually need to do that thing. So once you've made the assessment and found out if there's any information of that caliber there in this exciting thing for you, if it still seems beyond that the thing itself still harbors a high degree of excitement, then by all means, go for it, as you say in your language, to the best of your ability, for as long as it really does represent the most exciting thing you can imagine. You follow?
Yes. Well, I'm just waiting for the next step, that is for the second interview or the offer.
Yes, but you don't have to wait. Oh. In the meantime, you can still, out of anything you are capable of taking some action on, still act at any given moment on the thing that excites you the most, that you are capable of taking action on.
Well, the fifth one is office manager. And I start that on Monday.
Yes.
And that would be a different area for me totally. And I wouldn't know until I try it because it's a totally new area.
All right. Well, what's exciting about that?
Because I never had a chance to be, quote-unquote, be a manager, first of all.
So that's exciting. All right.
And secondly,
yes,
I get to use my certificate in purchasing because it's facilities related.
All right. Now again, remember the idea and the issues of integrity and responsibility and commitment. We're not necessarily saying that you can go and tell someone you will take the job and then 3 days later tell them that you quit when something better comes along. You follow?
Repeat that, please.
We are not saying that you simply arbitrarily take a job and make a commitment to someone and then simply 3 days later quit the job when something better comes along if they expected you to stay longer. If you recognize the idea of the potential of your highest excitement being the thing that you would rather prefer, then fill your time, quote unquote, waiting for the most exciting thing by in the meantime doing other things that are representative of your highest excitement that are not compromising your integrity and your ability to create commitment and responsibility with others.
Now that you discussed that, if I do hold out or wait for the opportunity that's going to represent my highest joy, you know, with me, time is very important. When do you see that opportunity presenting itself to me? In the right timing, of course. But only if you are being yourself. That's the point. When you stay in your joy, when you stay in your excitement, then everything will come together as it needs to. All the details will fall into place and take care of themselves. If you're worried and focus too much on the idea that you could actually miss the right timing,
then paradoxically, you will miss it in a sense. You will make it not operate smoothly or fall into place smoothly by focusing on the idea that you are worried that it may not come together when you need it to. You will then be acting out of desperation instead of creation.
Most of my experiences are business related. Is there any other fields that you can suggest to me for me to look into?
Since you asked the question, does that mean that you have an inkling that there might be?
Yes.
Well, you tell me. Don't be afraid to answer your own question. That's part of the trouble and difficulty that most of you have. You sit there and you go, well, is there anything else I could be doing? I don't know. And you don't stop to realize that your very ability to ask the question, in fact, yes, your very desire to ask that question in and of itself is indicative that there might be another answer there if you'd only allow yourself to believe the answer you know might be true but are afraid to believe might not be true. So, when you say, well, is there anything else? Well, does anything else come to mind that sounds more exciting than any of the things you've already mentioned? Many times, before you answer, to give you a hint, individuals will answer the question, as you have already done, well, what excites you the most? And they will say, as you have done, well, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But they will not allow themselves to say the other things because they are already censoring that for some reason those are not realistic choices to make, when in fact they might be the very thing you need to choose. That really is more representative of your joy, but you are censoring yourself so quickly that you don't bring yourself even to the point of believing that it would be possible to even consider that as a choice, and so you don't include it in your list of most exciting things because you think the choice is somehow unrealistic or childish or foolhardy or all of these other reasons that you give yourself not to be who you are. So, with all of this in mind, and just taking it to a very fundamental level with no censorship, with no conditions placed upon it, such as, well, no, I can't say that because everyone knows you can't make a living doing that. With no conditions, if you were to just answer the question like a child would answer the question, what would be the most exciting thing you could imagine doing that you would rather be doing in your life? Do you have a different answer than what you've already given?
Yes, because we're multifaceted, and I do.
What's the answer?
The answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be helping people or counseling.
Well, then what are you going to do about that?
I've already made efforts already.
Efforts?
I'm looking into doing some charity work for children.
Could you do anything that would allow you to be even more active with regard to the thing that excites you the most, more than what you're doing now? Can you look around and find out all the ways that you might be able to do something or express this idea in some way, shape, or form now that you have the capability of doing?
Definitely.
Then do so. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Don't wait. Don't say, well, these conditions must be met first before I am capable of fulfilling this thing or doing this thing or taking any action on it in this direction at all. Don't wait. Look around. Act on the most exciting thing first. Then, when you've really taken it as far as it needs to go at that moment, then the next most exciting thing will make itself obvious to you as to what it is you need to do in the meantime, so to speak, until such time comes around again that you have the ability to take another piece of action on the thing that excites you the most. But you must take action in whatever way you can and in all ways you can on the thing that excites you the most first, because that's the organizing principle and the driving engine of everything else in your life in terms of how it organizes itself and makes itself available to you to support you. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
So use your creative imagination and your inspiration and find more opportunities to act on the thing that you really say excites you the most without censoring yourself, without judging yourself, without knocking it down before you even start. And create opportunities if they don't exist. Use your imagination and create opportunities. And most important of all, are you ready?
Yes.
Most important of all. Are you sure you're ready?
I wouldn't be here.
Thank you. If you actually have in your mind some kind of image, vision, or picture of yourself doing this ideal, most exciting thing that you say contains the highest joy, then any way you can actually act out the scenario in your head as if it were a play, a movie with a script. Actually do a dry run as many times as possible. Actually, physically, yes, actually, physically act out what you see your future, most ideal, most excited self doing in that imaginary scenario of what you say you would like to do. With body language intact, behavioral modalities intact. In other words, act just like her. And actually act out a typical day in the life, or hour in the life, or moment in the life, as best you can, that you see in your head as the representative picture. Make your surroundings as close an approximation to the surroundings she is in as you possibly can. Alter your surroundings to match what you see as best you can. If you have to paint pictures on cardboard and tack them up on your wall of your house to put a window where there ought to be one in your vision, do so. If you can find a building that is most like the one you see in your vision when you're operating on your highest level, then go and find that building and act out the scenario in that building. Make all the elements and all the props as close as you possibly can to the actual image, and completely and utterly, whether you feel ridiculous doing it or not, act it through. Because then you are training your body consciousness to get used to operating in that frequency. And it will actually have a feedback reflection result. It will bring and attract to you more opportunities for that to actually manifest, because you are demonstrating that it's real for you in thought, word, and deed. Many of you stop short. Oh yes, I can picture the thing that excites me the most. Oh yes, I can feel how excited I would be. But you don't actually bring it down to physical reality by mimicking and behaving like the person in the image. You just let it sit there. Well, when's it going to manifest? When you are that person. When you act like that person in all the ways she would act in every situation that comes around in your life, when you act in those situations the way she would act, then you are that person and you will have her life. That's what your imagination is for. Do you understand this?
Yes, Bashar.
It's critical. 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 Yet most of you don't do it. Now look at children. You know how to do it when you're a child. A child imagines, feels it strongly, and actually acts it out. When you are a child, you have innately and instinctively the three major components of the manifestation tool intact. You understand you've got to act it out. But when you're an adult, oh, stop acting like a child. Stop pretending. That's not real. Oh, grow up. You cancel one of the strongest components of the manifestation circuit. You still, because it's private, allow yourself to see it, imagine it, allow yourself to feel it privately, quietly, not telling anyone. Of course, therein, you are still short-circuiting yourself because a child tells everyone. I am an astronaut. Whoosh! Here I go. I build the spaceship, I get in it, I play in it, I am there. It is real. That's how it becomes so. But when you as adults cut out that third component, you cut out your ability to ground the circuit and allow physical reality to have anything to respond to.
Bashar,
Yes.
Since I'm not acting out my highest good, how close am I in pinpointing it if it is the counseling? Maybe I try it out. It may not turn out to be that way.
That's too bad then, isn't it? And perhaps also too good. In other words, it's up to you. That's the whole point. You decide at any given moment what is your highest joy. Act on it. But in the meantime, actually do. If you talk about the idea of seeing yourself counseling people, go through the motions. If you have to make cardboard dummies to counsel, make them. If you can invite your friends and pretend they are your patients, do it. I mean this literally. Don't you get it?
Yes.
So act it out, and you'll see a big difference when you go through that motion. And you won't have to ask me that question, because when you go through the motions, you will see your reality change. The opportunities will become more blatant and obvious, and you won't have to ask me, where am I? How am I doing? You'll know. You'll see. That's why I'm so strongly urging that you act out the imaginary scenario in your head, because it will make all the difference in your world. Guaranteed. All right?
Oh, okay. Moving on to a second question.
Yes.
I tried talking to my boyfriend Lee, and
you tried talking to him.
Yeah, he won't tell me why. He won't tell me why I'm demanding or why, because he tells me that.
He tells you you are demanding.
Yeah, and he won't explain it. I've asked him to explain it, and he just won't communicate.
And he will not.
Yes.
I see. Is it time for a new boyfriend?
Let's see.
I'm asking the question. Is this what you prefer? Is this the level of communication you prefer in your relationships?
No.
You have done your best to inquire, to solicit some communication as best as you know how to do?
Yes.
Well then, you are being given the communication, but you're not paying attention. Are you? What is it you're not paying attention to? This is not someone who behaves the way you want someone to behave in a relationship. That's the communication that you're missing.
Okay.
Get it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2. Good day.
Hello, Bashar. I've actually been following my excitement and talking to my guides, and they were thrilled to hear from me after all these years.
All right.
And
do they have a big party?
I think they're having a party because it seems that I'm manifesting things and opportunities like I never have before.
All right.
And I'm very excited.
All right. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. You were very generous in sharing some of the information about the factions of the Greys, which I found really fascinating and very helpful.
All right.
And I was wondering if you could tell me something about the different factions of reptilians. I get the feeling that
there are no different factions of reptilians except for the few that in their eyes are aberrant and actually function as autonomous individuals like Alpha Deo.
Okay. So there are only a few of those?
There are only a few.
So most of the reptilians have their own agenda, and it's pretty much one agenda?
And connected overall to the subliminal levels of gray consciousness, yes.
Okay. Are the Greys that are doing the abductions, are they clones? Are they...
In some senses, at some times, portions of their society have been cloned. Some of them are clones in that sense, as you mean it literally, but not all in that sense.
Okay, now, so evidently the reptilians and the Greys do work together on a lot of projects, hybridization being one.
In a sense, yes, although work together in the way that humans might mean it may be a little misleading of a term.
Can you elaborate on that?
Simply that they are bonded.
Oh, they are bonded.
It would be like saying that the head and the handle of the hammer work together. Well, if they don't, there's no hammer at all.
So they are a related species on...
In a sense. They are tied together through the subliminal energies. They represent, collectively, the primitive and primeval part of what you call the reptilian brain of the Greys, in that sense, but manifested physically.
So when the Greys were in contact with the government, the reptilians obviously were too.
But not in the sense of an independent contact, no. And in most instances, what you would call the reptilians were certainly not revealed.
All right. Why is there...
It would be like, again, this is a euphemism according to your human language. Please understand that this can be misleading because the relationships are not exactly the same, but perhaps it will help to get the point. If you have a business meeting, bringing a reptilian for a gray would be like you going to a business meeting with your butler. Do you understand? You normally wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Are you following this?
Sort of, yeah. I guess, in a way, I just have so many more questions about this.
Yeah.
The preponderance of information about the reptilians is so fear-based and negative.
Yeah, because they are reflective vibrationally of your own reactive reptilian brain.
But why do a lot of the experiencers that I know personally have a very deep sense of communion with this entity?
Because it is a very deep, fundamental part of your being. It is that which connects you to your primary core existence as a physical being in physical reality. It's very, very, to put it another way, very earthy.
All right,
when someone has the capacity to see beyond the idea of the fear level, it can be a very earthy, deep, primeval experience, primordial experience.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and this can be very moving.
Yeah, I feel that it is. I'm just so surprised that there's almost nothing that I read about them that is anything but fear-based.
Yes.
And
it's because their energy is so basic. Do you understand?
Yeah,
there isn't much to interpret. You're either going to get it one way or another.
Well, and I'm thinking that maybe the women that I know at this particular time in history have awakened to such a point that they can appreciate that aspect of
They
themselves.
may have gotten in touch with the dragon energy within themselves that helps them balance out their relationship to this primordial form of intelligence, yes.
So the dragon is just another form of reptilian. They are related as well?
Well, now we are talking about an expanded archetype that goes way beyond the idea of the reptilians and encompasses more than just the human and reptilian and grays and many other things. We are talking about an archetypal template that allows you to have a relationship with something like the reptilians in a more primordial way.
Okay.
Don't relate them and say, are they related in that sense?
No, it's funny because I don't feel that they are, and yet everyone puts them together.
No, it is not the same thing at all.
I didn't feel that either.
No.
I just wish I knew more about them. They evidently, they say that they eat people and that they're sort of responsible for the cattle mutilations and...
They participate from time to time in such things as the mutilations. They are not responsible. Again, remember, they are to some degree carrying out orders. You follow?
Carrying out orders? Whose orders?
The Greys.
So the Greys are actually telling the reptilians sort of what they want?
Do you not, in that sense, in some senses, with what you call your intellectual brain, tell your primitive brain how to behave and what to do?
That's interesting. I never really...
They are like an autonomic function of the Greys, but manifested as a race.
Interesting.
You are beginning perhaps to understand what it means to be a collective consciousness and how each manifestation functions in the same way that your little finger functions as an extension of your entire hand.
Oh, man, this is great. I've sensed that my contacts have ceased since around Christmas time, but I'm wondering if it's simply because I haven't had any...
They have shifted. You have gone into a different domain, especially because your connection to your own dragon energy and thus your ability to make a connection to the renegade reptilians, such as Alpha Deo, have started to accelerate and shift you in a completely different direction, and in some senses has moved you outside of the typical agenda that the reptilians would be connected to, for the most part. Yes.
Well, I feel pretty comfortable with all of it now, and so I'm more in touch with the renegade species rather than the standard...
Simply because it is more like, or at least as close an approximation as the reptilians can get, to what it is that you represent as a species. Yes.
When I'm vibrating at that particular point.
Yes.
Well, this is marvelous stuff.
Then marvel at it.
I am, and I feel even more committed to writing this book because I think it's a perspective that hasn't been touched upon. And
all right, then follow your joy.
Oh, it's been so exciting. I'm thrilled. Thank you so much. One other question.
Yes.
The men in black,
Yes.
are they hybrids? Are they interdimensional beings?
We have discussed this, and the idea is that from time to time, they actually have been several things.
Okay.
Number one, there have been a few instances of what you would call literalization, in the sense that there have been from time to time beings that have actually donned the garb for the purpose of dissuading information flow on certain subjects. Sometimes, in few instances, they have been also members of your own society in what you would call some of your shadow government aspects. But for the most part, they have actually been the idea of other kinds of beings. But the largest level of what you refer to as men in black is actually a physicalized manifestation of a certain level of the collective subconscious of your reality, reflecting back to itself its willingness or lack thereof to penetrate the deeper mysteries of life.
Mm-hmm. So it's a myriad of things, really.
Yes, and has become all mixed up in what you would call your collective mythology.
Do you think that mind control and Satanism is rampant in this country as much as...
They do exist.
Yeah.
And there are many programs that are relatively far-reaching and wide-scale. It may not in that sense be what you would call rampant, but nevertheless they are wide-scale enough to be having in certain areas significant impact. Yes.
Okay. Two more quick questions. Is it possible that a reptilian, which is obviously capable of shape-shifting, could actually take the body of, let's say, a government official for a certain length of time?
This kind of thing with a large, concentrated, and cohesive focus from many different levels of the collective consciousness can happen. It does not happen or has not happened to any degree near the percentage that certain individuals on your planet sometimes espouse that such a thing has occurred. It has occurred from time to time, but in the overall scheme of things, let us say, going from what you would call 0 to 100% of all such occurrences, you're actually looking at something that in the entire history of this being done by those beings, you would only really hover somewhere around perhaps 3%.
That's a lot, though. That's significant, because I've only heard of it in one instance, and for some reason, it just, the person that told me, it felt so real.
Yes. Now, again, also remember that even when such a thing may have occurred, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is a perpetual thing.
No,
sometimes it tends to be a very temporary, momentary type of manifestation for a very specific reason.
That's exactly what I
Yes.
thought. He told
Yes.
me that it was only for
Yes.
a year or something like that.
And there are also other types of beings that have done this for a variety of reasons as well.
Really? Like what? Like who?
Now we are stretching the edge of the envelope of information that is allowable at this time on your planet, but we are allowed to tell you that sometimes one move has a counter move. There is a game of chess going on.
Really?
And sometimes one side makes a move that another side will counter move in exactly an identical way.
There seems to be some sort of struggle going on.
It's not a struggle.
Well,
it's a game of chess.
But definitely something coming to a head, I feel.
Yes.
Soon?
Checkmate.
Soon? Is it a checkmate?
Yes, in a sense.
Who are playing? Who are the...
Everyone.
So our collective consciousness.
Yes, although there are those that are in positions to have a better view of the board and understand exactly how the pieces can be moved.
Global elite being one?
We are talking about something much bigger.
Much bigger.
Though they play their part and are represented on the board by their piece.
And you can't tell us who these groups might be? We're very curious.
Oh, yes, I can.
Will you?
No. But I will not, because it is inappropriate at this time.
Okay.
It would be, in a sense, like giving away certain moves in a game of chess, rather than simply allowing them to occur spontaneously and let the game unfold in the way that it needs to.
Well, I guess we're helping all we can by
Yes.
raising our consciousness.
Yes.
Did a friend of mine told me...
One moment. There will be allowed more on this specific subject later.
Wonderful.
One aspect of the energy intelligence more actively and more consciously aware of the specific moves in the chess game will talk at a future time. All right?
All right. Was that another entity that came through?
Partly.
Can you identify?
In tapping in, we will always exemplify a part of the energy that we are referring to. And I've already told you that this will come at another time, so don't ask.
Oh, okay. I just thought you might like to share that.
I already told you that we could not. That is the energy we were referring to when we said we could not or would not.
Very exciting. I can't wait to...
But in the delivery of the message from that entity, that such a thing could happen in the future. You received part of the energy, a small fragment of it, but already it was told you that its identity would not be revealed to you.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure that it was the same entity.
Now you are.
Okay. One other question. I've had the feeling that I might have another implant in the right side of my face.
No comment.
Okay. One other thing. A friend of mine, a guy that I was seeing about a year ago, told me that he saw me shift into a snake. And I was wondering if that was a momentary shape-shift type thing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You, good day.
Hello again.
And to you, good day.
I have a very good friend, and her name is Hong Ling.
All right.
And just recently, she has breast cancer, and she was informed that it has metastasized to her brain.
All right.
And I was wondering, she's very reserved in nature, and I think she's hesitant to ask for help. And I would like to know how I can best be of help to her. And is there some sensing of something of a physical or medicinal nature which could be of help to her now?
There are certain things, again, that are referred to some degree that could be of balance and of help.
Again.
And to you, good day.
I have a very good friend, and her name is Hong Ling.
All right.
And just recently, she has breast cancer, and she was informed that it has metastasized to her brain.
All right.
And I was wondering, she's very reserved in nature, and I think she's hesitant to ask for help. And I would like to know how I can best be of help to her. And is there some sensing of something of a physical or medicinal nature which could be of help to her now?
There are certain things, again, that are referred to some degree that could be of balance and of help, that do exist, that are natural in that sense, non-toxic in that sense, not detrimental nor destructive to the body in that sense, that could be of help, but it must begin with willingness. And if there is no willingness, then what you can do is simply support her out of unconditional love the best you can in the choices that she is willing to make. But if there is no willingness to look into these things, if there is no willingness on that level, then this information will not necessarily be of great benefit.
How did you know she wasn't willing?
You told us.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I just said she was reserved in nature. But anyway.
We understand what that means.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, is there something else you would like to discuss?
No, I guess you've answered it adequately. Thank you very much.
There are two strong, fundamental approaches that would be described in the following way. perhaps even a third. One, she is of the capacity to allow for a revelatory moment to completely change her physiology. If she will allow herself the opportunity to get in touch with her deepest fear and allow herself to love every aspect of herself, she has the capacity to change herself immediately. She can be attracted to certain, though these are rare, to find the ones that are effective and appropriate, certain electromagnetic therapeutic techniques that can to some degree alleviate and balance some of the condition. She can be attracted to certain well-versed homeopathic individuals that can help alleviate and balance the situation. She can explore the possibility of that which is known in your society as the anti-neoplaston therapies of certain individuals in what you would call your Houston area. But all of this goes back to the idea also of great traditional fears, things that are perceived as heavy doorways that are difficult to open and walk through, that may contain greater fears on the other side in her perception, and thus then generate the unwillingness and the inertia that you perceive in her. Mm-hmm. It may be required that she must go back to ancient roots and let go of those things that have, in a sense, been imposed upon her thought patterns and processes about herself, her identity, her worth. Also, she can, through some of these ancient techniques, find that certain herbs created by the correct people, instinctive people, can also be of great value and alleviate these conditions. If she will go through these ancient traditional methods, it will be found that it can work very strongly for her if she is willing to become natural in that way along her old belief system lines. And she can also find herself possibly attracted to individuals who can heal with a touch. This individual has many doorways of potential healing in what appears to be a strong crisis situation, but they have taken themselves into this strong crisis situation to see if they are willing to force those doors open, know that they need to walk through them, and dissipate the fears, or if they are, in that sense, actually so afraid that they are willing to take themselves out through the door of life into death. This is the great balancing act and the great conundrum that she has imposed upon herself, and the great paradox of dark and light that she is facing in her soul's journey to experience the extremes of physical reality and the extremes of the polarity that goes hand in hand with that experience. Give her the strength of your unconditional love, that her soul in some sense knows what it's doing, and open up for her the possibility that her body can seek out many different avenues, and that any one that she deems is the one that represents her ability to find her true definition of self-worth and self-love can be the one that can transform her instantaneously, but only if she is willing to believe that that is so. Then her reality will instantaneously transform to bring her the individuals and the knowledge that can make it so very quickly, but only if she is willing. All right?
Thank you so much. I feel like you had your finger right on her.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, good day.
Hi, Bashar.
To you, good day.
A few weeks ago, I had a dream and...
One moment. I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
Have you yet built your rhombic dodecahedron shape?
No. We just got the pattern last week, and...
Last week? And not yet has your excitement and curiosity driven you to construct the shape yet?
You know, that didn't drive me to any excitement.
Did it not?
No, not at all.
Why do you think that might be?
I don't know. There was no excitement for me on that at all. I didn't even copy down the shape.
I see.
In fact, Stephanie did, and I said, great. I said, then why don't you, when you get it put together, then give me a copy of it.
I see. All right.
I don't know why that wasn't exciting.
But the Tesseract is.
Oh, the Tesseract was very exciting, yes.
All right.
But not that.
All right. We'll let it go for now, then. Proceed with what it was you were going to say.
Well, you know, in that vein, let me also...
No. Proceed with what you were going to say. Go back to what you were going to originally talk about.
But I wanted to tap into the Tesseract.
No. Go back to what you were going to say.
Well, let me tap into that one, huh? Okay. It had nothing to do with this other shape, but it did have to do with Tesseract and music and that type of thing.
Yeah.
That you had said about the Tesseract.
Yeah.
And I don't tap in. I thought it was very interesting that I tap into like you had mentioned for the Tesseract, when people brought up music.
Yes.
And Beethoven, some of the classical music.
Yes.
That music absolutely drives me wild. I cannot, when I did my music appreciation classes in college and everything like that.
Drives me wild.
It's like, for me, it's like scratching on a blackboard. It is so disharmonious for me.
Are you certain you are listening to the correct pieces?
I haven't listened to any since my music appreciation class that I had a real hard time getting through.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, that was 20 years ago.
I would suggest that there are many pieces you would actually find quite enjoyable if you will take a little time to explore through all that is available in what you call classical music on your planet.
But it's never been an exciting idea for me to tap into that.
That's because it was made unexciting to you.
Oh, when I was in
If you
class.
will take some time to browse through some of it and listen to some of it, you may find some of your excitement being rekindled once you understand that there are harmonies that will, in fact, inspire you with regard to the Tesseract.
Oh.
You just have to find them.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting that
Yes.
I never tapped into that. Yeah.
And it requires reclamation of this component. Remember what we said about immersing yourself in the language, so that when some information is given to you in that language, you will understand it. This is part of that immersion. Go browsing through your classical music. You will know when you have found the ones that allow you to feel the Tesseract. They will not all sound like scratching on blackboard to you.
All right. Now, I had a dream just a few days before we had that Tesseract workshop.
And that dream would contain what, pray tell?
Totally experiencing the Tesseract.
Yes.
Absolutely experiencing it. There were like sections of it that were not connected, but it was all connected into one.
Yes.
And in fact, I woke up and...
Did you?
Yeah. And
perhaps you actually went to sleep.
Well, I was having the dream, and
then you were awake.
Oh, when I was having the dream, I was awake.
When you were fully experiencing the Tesseract, you were awake. Then you went back to sleep.
When I thought I was awake at that point, then. Yes. Well, when I thought I was...
I mean, like now. Like all of you mostly are. Not meaning this in a bad way, but physical reality requires, by definition, a certain limitation that in some senses is analogous to actually being asleep. And thus, when you are experiencing in your dream state the more full experience, that is more analogous to being more fully awake. So, a strong hint for you is to understand that when you did experience that Tesseract fully in your dream, you were actually awake. That's what it feels like to be awake. When you woke up physically, you came back to physical reality consciousness. You fell asleep.
Wow.
That's actually really fundamentally why it's called falling asleep. Because you lower your vibration.
Okay. When I was asleep but thought I was awake.
Yes.
I was actually then basking in the feeling and everything of the Tesseract and my idea.
You were the experience itself.
Yes.
Yes. And you still are, but the idea now is to wake up in this dream and realize it. And that's the reason why it helps to immerse yourself from as many directions as you possibly can, because in the dream state, when you are more fully awake, that whole experience is the product of a number of harmonics going on at the same time that you simply don't differentiate. But in physical reality, they're all segregated out. They're all differentiated. You have to bring them all back into the pot. Mm-hmm. You have to bring them all back into the soup. Okay. So that you can experience them all together as you do when you are awake in your dream.
Right.
But in your dream, it's undifferentiated. Here, it's differentiated, but you've got to bring them all back together in a harmonious way.
Okay, then when I thought I was awake and still experiencing it, and I thought, well, I'll remember this because it was so profound.
Yes, and you did.
Well, when I...
In the best way you can, by being asleep. Yes.
Right. But when I woke up and got up in the morning...
Yes.
The only thing I remembered...
Yes.
Were 5 rows of white flowers.
5 rows of white flowers.
Yes.
All right.
The only connection I have put together for myself for that was when I was in the pool and I experienced the flower of life, the vine with the red flowers on it.
Yes.
That type of energy, but that's the only connection I've put together with the white flowers.
All right. Anything else?
Aren't going to add anything to that, huh?
Nope.
Okay. What I had started out to say was that a few weeks ago in a dream, that I'm still exploring that dream. It's very interesting.
Oh, all right. You can say so.
But one part of it, you said that I had tapped into energy at the end of August, the first week in September. And you had said there might be something on that night when I shared that with you. There wasn't that night. Is there anything else you can share with us about that time frame?
Not till you bring the music in.
Oh. Connection to that, huh?
Yes.
Now, that time...
Because it provides the harmonic structure that helps gravitate everything together.
From a personal level, for me, for that period of time...
For everything.
For everything, because I got that it was an event that was coming up that was for all of us, or a lot of us, or...
Partially, yes.
Okay.
But remember, everyone experiences a different reality truly.
Right.
And thus it is only by consensus that you experience similar things. So in that sense, yes, coming up for everyone, but not necessarily everyone.
Right, but a lot of us are.
Maybe.
Okay.
We're not going to count numbers.
No, I just thought it was personal and then also...
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Both of it.
Yes.
All right, one other thing.
Yes.
Just the day before the Tesseract party,
yes.
I had put a vanilla, what is it? Incense.
Yes.
In the bathroom, and I had burned down half of it because I wanted to see what the smell and everything would be.
All right.
And then when I went in and I was cleaning the bathroom, and I thought, well, I'll light this, and then because I like the smell, and then I'll put a brand new one in. Well, I lit it. The phone rang. I went into my office. I picked up the phone and talked for a few moments, but it was portable, and I walked back in because I had this lit. And when I came back in, it was completely gone. I don't mean it burned down or anything. It disappeared.
All right.
I looked all over because I thought, man, this is burning. I looked all over it. I did not find it.
All right.
I haven't attached anything or went anything more into it, but I thought that was very interesting that it disappeared.
So the opposite of what we began with regard to the appearing tape, we now have the disappearing incense. We have come full circle.
I'm disappearing things instead of
Perhaps the
upstream.
incense went where the tape came from. Perhaps the incense became the tape. The tape was the incense at one time.
Are you going to share any more about that? I mean, the Tesseract, yes, was all about bringing things in.
Well, the door does swing both ways.
ways.
And it might be showing you that the hinges are finally becoming oiled.
So that they can go both ways. Very interesting.
Does that help you?
Oh, yes. And then I will share later all the other exciting things that are happening.
And also, you will, we imagine, share next time what you have discovered on your musical sojourn.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. At this timing, we will extend once again to each and every one of you our deep appreciation in allowing for this co-constructed communication, and to each and every one of you individually and all of you together collectively, our unconditional love, excitement, and a fond and creative good day. How did it go? Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for being here, guys. I'll see you again. Have a good night.